What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka Toe Tag and Tambo, back for our final strokes gain show of the season here at RPS. We've got the RSM Classic. We've got the 18 million narratives that we're going to talk about, the Sea Island Mafia, the Sea Island Boys. You can talk about whatever you want, but I got my boys here with me. I got Snyder, I got Uncle T, and I was going to bring in my main man, Uncle T, first. Got to respect your elders. Uncle T, what's happening, my man? How you doing?
Yeah, doing good, doing great. I appreciate the being in the one hole. Schneider, he's used to it. I mean, he's used to coming in the two or the three holes. So no, it's good. Tambo, you mentioned it. Like this is, like I said, the last full field right event of the year until we go to Hawaii in the beginning of January. So it's I was thinking earlier today and even yesterday when I was doing some initial research, and we're all three big golf guys, right? But I'm kind of looking forward to the break now that it's almost here. We got one more week, and then again we can lock in on football and some other, the NBA and some other sports for the next 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then it gives us a nice little, break. And then we go full board in January in the events in Hawaii. So I'm looking forward to it this week to again make some money, and then again get that little break off. I'll miss the shows with you guys, but yeah, it'll be good for the people.
Yeah, we'll still be grinding here. You know at RPS what it is. If you're not already a part, RPS Heater 25, you guys can get on board. When golf ends, which it will for a little bit, like Uncle T said just after this, we'll still have everything going on. NBA, NFL, tennis, MMA. I can't even name them all. You name it, the sports there. One price for everything. Gotta love that. I was going to say hit the like button, but I got more likes than watching at the moment already. So if you guys are watching this after the fact, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, big red button down in the right corner. You can't miss it there. So really helps us out. And we appreciate you guys sticking with us through this season. And let's go out with a bang, Snyder. Bring you in, my guy. Pretty good week last week. I think, we chatted through some stuff. Going to get back to it again for this final week, but I'm excited to go through it with you. How you doing this week?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good this week. It was an all right weekend for me last week. A couple of my value guys kind of let me down in some key spots last week, but it is what it is. I mean, round one and round two showdown continued to be just a printer for us. I think I finished second in the smaller $33 round one showdown deal. So I was basically free rolling heading into the round two. So that was good. Round two was all right. Didn't play too much over the weekend. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the round four too much. But yeah, it was a fun weekend. Ready to roll for this final full field event here. We got some pretty good names in this field, so I'm interested in seeing what you guys have on this field here.
Yeah, and the best part about this one is even if it's the last event of the season, if you grind it all the way to this one, you should know all the names in this damn field. So forget about if it's good, bad, or the ugly. It's a full field. There's great tournaments out there. We're going to be trying to get after it. I definitely want to go out with a bang. Like I said, get some winners, pick some winners. I won't forget this week, Uncle T. I got you. We'll get a winner at the end. I've got my pick. We'll talk through the picks first, though. Go through the tiers. Before we do that, though, Snyder, I'm going to stay right here with you, man. What can you tell us about this course? What are some things that you've seen, some stats that you're looking for? And then, of course, we'll go through sort of strategies and lineup construction. I've got a major thought on lineup construction this week if you guys stick around for that. But lead me into it here, Snyder. What are we doing this week?
Yeah, we're heading to Georgia this week for the RSM. Like we said, it's the final full field event this week. Seaside Plantation course, Seaside and Plantation courses are located just a little south of Augusta there in Georgia. They're going to be playing two different tracks Thursday and Friday to help with the larger field so they can get through the full rounds with the limited daylight they have here. So they're going to be playing one-on-one. The one golf course is going to have two extra par fives at Plantation course. So a lot of people are going to be targeting that or should be targeting that course in showdowns the first 2 days. We're going to have to keep an eye on the weather here. We can typically see some weather advantages here at times. And if we do see that, I don't mind. Like early on, it looks like we're going to see some wind mid to early afternoon on Friday. It looks like it's going to be fairly lower speeds in the morning. But if I was looking to, I'd rather have my golfers be playing on like that Plantation course, which is more tree lined versus the Seaside course, which is more of a coastal type links course. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that for sure. We need to expect another birdie fest here. The last three winners have won at minus 19. So definitely there will be scoring to be had here on both of these courses. They're both playing right around that 7,000 yards. So it's going to be really short. We're going to be weighing driving accuracy over driving distance this week. For the nine of the par fours are in that 400 to 450 range. So I'll be looking at that in the stats. Driving accuracy, like I said, some other key stats I'm going to be looking at: strokes gained approach, fairways gained, 3-putt avoidance, and birdies or better gained percentage.
Yeah, and I like a lot of what you talked about there. You know, the other factor for this week is obviously the elephant in the room, but everyone mentions it. I kind of hate it that everyone brings it up. I think someone literally counted, and it was like 97 of the golfers in this field could have a quote unquote tie to Sea Island. So, you know, or the area or colleges, you name it in this, you know, so that one gets thrown out a little bit more for me. Obviously, course history is a little bit bigger here. I think that makes some more sense versus the other. But Uncle T, anything else you want to add to what you're looking at this week for this event?
No, not really. Schneider did a good job of kind of breaking down things. One of the things I think, especially not necessarily in the 4-day, picks that we'll have, but the showdown for sure is the in the first round leader. If you're a first round leader kind of guy or showdown, I think we need to target the plantation course for sure, right, Schneider? Because that's par 72. Generally, they're going to score quite a bit better on the plantation course. So we may want to stack, and we'll get into maybe Tambo, you might have already had a thought on that for later on in the show, but we need to probably think about maybe stacking at least Thursday, Friday from that standpoint. If you're going to play any first round leaders, or if you're going to play showdown, which we do, we're going to maybe factor that in a little bit more. And then also lastly, the weather. I heard a little bit on Twitter today that there could be some weather. And again, I'm not really a weather guy. I usually rely on Schneider for that. So I don't know if there's some weather that's going to come in on Friday that could, alter our thought process between now and Thursday morning.
Yeah, that'll be something for sure. Like we talked about earlier, if you're not in the RPS Discord, you can get over there, RPS Heater 25, get in that, because that's where we'll be talking about it, and a little bit more interesting than normal because typically there is some weather here, or at least a possibility for it. And then, of course, with the 2 course flips, you got to factor that in as well going into it. So I just think that'll be more important as the week goes on. Not something I'm extremely concerned with at the moment. Tee times are out there today, so you can definitely look into that and apply it towards it. Based off of that, again, we'll have those in the Discord over at Run Pure Sports. But let's hop right into it then. We'll go to it quickly as possible, guys. I know you guys want to get to the picks. We'll hop into the tiers. And Snyder, I'm going to start with you. We've got the 10K range, Harris English, all the way up to Scotty Scheffler. Another second place last week for Scotty Scheffler. But what are your thoughts here in this upper range?
Yeah, I've got some interest in some of the guys here. First off, Webb Simpson. He's going to be my main target in this range. He's off a solid top 15 at the CJ Cup. He's got great course history here too. A couple top threes in his last 3 starts here. Solid across the board stats wise. He started off a little sluggish last year, but he picked it up throughout the mid to late part of the year. Like I've been using this SaberSim kind of recently, and it's kind of like it put me on Webb as the top overall play on like 90% of the 1,000 builds I threw in there. So I'm definitely looking at him for that. Scotty Scheffler, like you said, he was so close yet again, but those Sunday struggles just continue to haunt him there. I mean, I love the talent he's got there. Did finish T5 in his lone start here. I just think I would rather prefer to go Webb for $200 cheaper. Louis, he's kind of been in a little tailspin since that great summer he had. The putter's kind of lost. He's kind of lost that putter. It's kind of went away from him. I think the price is just a little too high for me in this event. Cam Smith, he's played very well in windy conditions, and it looks like we're going to see some windy conditions from Friday on. So I'm definitely going to have interest in Cam. Enters with some strong form, 8 straight made cuts, 4 finishes of 15th or better. And that model also was on him pretty heavy in these early builds as well. So I'm going to be looking at Webb Simpson and Cam Smith mainly in this top tier.
Yeah, before I flip it to you, Uncle T, I like what Snyder said there. I brought it up yesterday with Kenny on the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast over on the Mayo Media Network. And I said the SS in Scotty Scheffler stands for shitty Sundays. You said Sunday struggles. I like that better because it's been true, man. It's been insane the amount of times he's been in the mix. They're already talking about him on Saturday night about this could be the week. He's the best golfer not to win yet. All these factors coming up across Twitter and just the golf industry in general in the media, and doesn't close again or get there in the end. So if you don't want to say close, he at least didn't get there in the end. So I'm a little bit weary on him as well. Uncle T, talk to me about this top range. And then maybe if you've got any strategy thoughts on this week too, just with this sort of being the best names in the field, if you will, but there's a lot of names, like I said, that we all know down the board. So you don't have to go up here necessarily, but what are your thoughts? Oh,
mute. I already caught it. Yeah. So, for me, the Scheffler, when I first looked at the pricing, I think Scheffler being at the top of the board this week, in my opinion, is warranted, just based off of the field and based off of how he's performed the last 2 weeks. So I get the 10-9 price tag, but I think for me, I might pass on Scotty this week. You guys mentioned about the Sunday struggles. I mean, he still shot a 69. He just didn't close, right? So it wasn't like he went out and shot a 74, 75 and really faded on Sunday. So if you were to go to Scheffler, I wouldn't fault you for it at all. I think where I might get a little bit different than Schneider, and this is definitely a tricky one, right? Because of what he mentioned with Webb Simpson. I think I'm going to be way under the field as far as, underweight on Webb this week. And when I first, again, looked at the pricing, I was not hoping that Simpson would be at 10.7, right? At least for me. I was hoping maybe he'd be around that $10,000 mark or maybe just under 10,000. And for me this week, I think that, in that mindset that I have when I first looked at it, I think that $700-800 that I think he might be a tad overpriced is going to probably keep me off of him. So again, it might burn me for sure. Webb's clearly a very good play for all the reasons Schneider mentioned. There's nothing else I can say differently. But for me, I'm going to start my lineups with Louis Oosthuizen, and I love Cam Smith this week. Those are my two favorite guys above 10K. You could say that Louis lost a little bit of his steam, but he still hasn't been poor. You know what I mean? And he had a miscut here last year, but he was rested since what, a T. Can't remember what he got there. He was 38th last time out. Yeah, he didn't perform very well, but I think the putter's going to come back. That's not something that's going to be a long-term thing. He's too good of a putter. Cam Smith, though, again, very good win player if the weather picks up. But he's just been steady. Like last week, I didn't play much last week. I had him on one build, and he was quietly a T15 at the end of the week. And it really felt like even the coverage of him and even me kind of keeping up with the stats and the scores and, all that last week, it really didn't even feel like I even was looking at him. And all of a sudden he pops in there for a T15, and it really wasn't one of his best efforts. So I think he's the strongest play up here. And then Harris English, again, he withdrew at the CJ Cup. He did finish T6 here last year, but for me, my top two guys here are going to be Louis and Cam Smith, and I'm going to be way under on Webb. I've got 6 builds currently. I may put him on one build, but I could maybe decide to full fade.
Yeah, unfortunately, our normal RPS motto, there's always next week, is not true in golf. So you fading Webb, it sucks. You're going to have to wait 6 more weeks. But
yeah,
that's unfortunate, Uncle T. But look here. I'm with you, Snyder, on this one here. I think Webb is just better than everybody at the top. I think it's been proven over the last couple years now. He's just become a much better golfer. I also think this is my next thought, and I was trying to bring a little bit of strategy up there, but I'll talk about it now. You go 9K and up, I really don't like this range in general. I'm talking from 9,000 up. I like a couple of guys, but I think going up here and getting a little more aggressive. One thing I said yesterday also with Kenny on the podcast was I like the 6K range just as much as I like that lower 7K range this week. So there's easily lineups where I can play 2 or even 3 6K guys. I know you guys will like some of them when we get down there because it's guys we've been on for the last 3-4 weeks here. So we'll talk about that when we get there later. But for me at the top, Webb for sure is number 1. I'm with you though, Uncle T, on Louis. I said it the same way yesterday. I think it's just this range. I'm playing the guys that I don't feel. Listen, Scheffler, Cam Smith, they're not overrated. They're great golfers. That's why they're here. That's why they're priced where they are. That's why Vegas got them at the number they got them at. All of those factors. I'm not saying in that sense. I'm just saying I think Webb and Louis are better. That's just my opinion over the last year and a half, 2 years. I mean, Louis got second in a bunch of majors, plays in all the toughest tournaments, still showed up in those with way stronger fields, way tougher courses, don't really care as much about history, whatever. It's the last event of the season. They're here to get the points. They're here to get the W. He definitely would like to win on U.S. soil. So I think Louis is in play here as well. And then English is the other guy. I just think, it feels a little pricey for him, but I just think at that, the game that he's had, the factor of he's almost, jokingly the new Webb Simpson, where he himself has got pretty good with his game over the time. When he beat Kramer Hickok in that 8-hole playoff or whatever it was, just a bunch of moxie after already having a W on the season, going out and getting the job done. Just, everything, the Ryder Cup, all these factors. Harris English is just a much better golfer. And I've actually come down on some of these guys in the 9K range to make room for them. So Cam Smith, I know, is popular this week. He's just not, he'd be 4th after those 3 for me. Uncle T, kick it back to you. I'll let you roll into this 9K range. Corey Connors down to Adam Scott. I just mentioned it's a range that I've come down on a little bit, to be frank, just, even from last night to tonight, just looking at overall builds, unless you want to leave thousands on the table, which again, I got no problem leaving money on the table at an event like this, but this range is also just not as appealing as the guys above, I think. So what are your thoughts here on this 9K range?
Yeah, kind of a similar thought process. Interesting you just said that, because you and I haven't talked at all until the show. So I've only got 2 guys in the 9K range right now. And I had one that I was on the fence on. I wanted to get your all's take coming into the show. So, but starting at the top, one guy that I am going to be on is my guy, Corey Connors. I'm just going to keep playing this guy. And honestly, I think he might be $300-400 cheaper than I think he could be in this field. I think he could be in that 10-2, 10-3, 10-4 range. So 9,900, I know it's only $400 or $500, but I feel like we're getting a decent value on Corey Connors. Nice history here. We all know he's an elite ball striker. Schneider mentioned that, off the tee is going to be huge here. You don't have to be long, but you got to be accurate. He's a strokes gained off the tee machine. So for me, Corey Connors is going to be my favorite in this range. And for me, then I go down to the guy I've been wavering on yesterday and today is Taylor Gooch. He's a guy that I think for the most part, us three have been on quite a bit during this good stretch. He made the cut last week, but finished T60. I don't know if I want to bounce back. I don't really want to hold one kind of rough week, if you will. He made the cut against him. I think he could come back and crush here. He hasn't had the greatest history here. That's the only thing that I was kind of, again, wavering on. I wanted to see if you guys could tilt me one way or the other. But the other guy for me is all the way down at the bottom of this range at 9K, and Adam Scott. He hasn't played here, which is interesting for me to like a guy that hasn't played here. But I just think that Scotty here is a good value play at 9K. And again, if you go back up, the guys I didn't mention, so those are the guys I'm interested in. But going back up, Neiman, I think he's just out of my price range. I think, again, 2 weeks ago, he was down in that 7,800 range. And now all of a sudden he's up to 9,700 in a decent top part of the field here. Alex Noren, I can never get right. So I've played him quite a bit. I've missed him a few times, and I've seemed like I'm not on the right end. Kevin Kisner clearly is the one. You talk about the elephant in the room. He's the all-time earnings leader here. He's got elite history, but he's in poor form, right? He's in some of the poorest form coming into this event that he's ever been in coming to this place. So, hey, will familiarity of the course and the surroundings bring him back to playing some good golf? Maybe. It might. But for me, I'm going to take again, maybe a fade approach. Again, I'm taking a couple decent stands. I already mentioned that I'll be underweight on Webb, if not a full fade. And I'm probably going to do the same with Kevin Kisner. So that could determine, my week. But for me, Corey Connors, Adam Scott, and I want to get your all's opinion on Taylor Gooch.
Yeah, I'll talk about it for a second and then kick it to you, Snyder. And guys in the chat, if you guys want to throw questions or any thoughts around the ranges that we're talking about, definitely go for it. We'll get to them. And if you're just joining us, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Get us rolling here with that, and we'll keep going through these ranges as we talk through this slate. But my thoughts on Gooch are just around, like you said, not really wanting to hold 1 week against him, has been crushing it all the way in. I know a lot of people are talking about Kisner, who you mentioned right below him there. I can just go back to Gooch and hope for the bounce back week. I think he's got the talent. I think he's been playing better golf than almost everybody and actually been playing golf, which is quite important at this time of year. And when you're rounding out the swing season, the form of any kind of just playing the game, having some pretty good results. The one bad week, like you said, he actually started strong, made the cut, and then just fell off. Some will say maybe he got tired or maybe he's gassed out. I don't think that's the case. Extremely young. Abrasive is in the chat talking about Connors week. Here's my thoughts on Connors, and then I'll flip it to you, Snyder. I'm starting to worry about it. Anytime it's Corey Connors chalk week, it doesn't seem to go too well. And look, I love the guy better than most. I can easily see the narrative of everyone's on Mackenzie Hughes this week, my fellow Canadians, but then Connors goes and steals it from him. A guy that can go out and win just as easily, I think. And he should. He's priced more. Vegas likes him more. I get all that. I'm saying more so from the fact of just easily could see him steal it away. But I like another Canadian that's actually way down the board. We'll talk about it later. But for me, I think here's my final thought on it, Snyder, is when you think about Connors and then you think about a guy like Cam Smith, do I just add another 5-figure guy in and play it and leave the Connors chalk alone and use the chalk on the guy that probably is better all around and has been better all around at the top? Or do you just go down to him and play him? So what are your thoughts on Corey Connors and then the rest of this 9K range?
Yeah, I've got interest in Corey Connors here. I'm not sure how much I'm going to play him yet, but I mean, he's been a very consistent cut maker. I mean, it kind of looks like that putting is kind of trending upwards as well. I mean, that's usually what limits him. And I mean, he's a great ball striker, great approach player. Everything lines up great for him in that aspect. But usually it's the putter that always holds him back from like competing and contending and such. But in the last 2 events, he broke even at the Sanderson's Farms, and then he gained over 5 strokes putting at the Shriners. So, I mean, that's positive signs to look at going forward. But I mean, I do understand about playing him at chalk. I mean, I definitely don't like playing bad putters when they're chalky. So that's definitely something
And
to
expensive.
consider there.
And expensive.
Yeah, and expensive, definitely. For the rest of these guys in this range, I can't pull the trigger on Neiman. I mean, I'll play Neiman when he's in that 7K range because, you know, more than likely he's going to finish in that 20 to 40 range, like we always say. So I don't think I'll be on him. And I'm kind of torn between these next few guys, Russell Henley, Kevin Kisner, and Taylor Gooch. Taylor Gooch finally finished outside the top 11 for the first time in 5 events. I definitely like Gooch. I've been on him a lot lately, so I'll probably have some of him. Henley kind of checks all the boxes that when you're looking for it here, when you're looking at like the ball striking and approach play and such. He's averaged 4.7 strokes gained tee to green over his last 10 events. I think he might have found something with the putter as well. He gained over 3 strokes last week. He's another guy I'm looking at. And Kevin Kisner, he's not in the best of form right now heading into this RSM, but he does have some really good event history here. 3 top 5 finishes in his last 4 trips. He won the Wyndham event back in April, so he definitely has that winning upside. And I think he's one to watch out for here. And if he's not going to be owned, he might be the one I look to target here in this range.
Yeah, I didn't look at his ownership just yet, but that's a good point that you brought up. Sadly enough, Adam Scott probably should have won that Wyndham. He missed the 5-footer at the end. I know because I bet him that week, and there's definitely been, the Kisner narrative, it goes with that as well, not just how well he's done at this course, but at Sedgefield there at the Wyndham as well, and went on just to win it recently. So that ties in even more so. Obviously, that's what brought Webb's name into it up at the top when people look at it from that angle. But like I said, Adam Scott was right there. That was the worst field he'd played in as far as strength of field goes, pretty much in the last 2 years, I think, and basically should have won it. Should have, could have, would have. You got to make the putt. Doesn't matter in the end, and he didn't. The huge playoff happened after that, and then obviously Kisner went on to win. But I'll go back to Adam Scott here. I do think that one makes sense. I like Uncle T's on him. I always like Adam Scott in these little bit weaker fields. Again, we know all the names, but as far as strength goes, there's like nobody here, right? We don't have any of the big dogs. We have pretty much nothing going on. Title is in the chat. My boy, Title Town, what's up? And then we've got a couple other things in here too. I like what your thoughts were there with Gooch and Kisner and Noren. For me, it's Gooch if I got to pick one of those 3. And then I like your thoughts, sorry, on Henley that you just brought up. Is he's kind of the one I'm debating between with him and Connors, because I feel like they're both going to carry some ownership. They're both kind of the same player in a sense of how they've been doing lately versus within their careers and whatnot. And then if you look at Henley, he's just been better and playing more and in recent form. And he's always been a better putter and better on Bermuda. So tying all that together, it feels like I'm leaning Henley there, and that's kind of the route I'm choosing to go. Like I said,
Rambo,
I feel like
that's hurtful.
That's
hurtful. You and I are usually arm in arm with our boy Corey. So you guys, let me go back a little bit. So let me make sure I heard you guys. So you guys both think that Connors is overpriced?
I think he's expensive for who he is, and I think he's also.
Well, I mean, relative to the field, though, we got to use it relative to the field, though. You think he's expensive relative to this field up top? I kind of have a different. I mean, I may be wrong. I may be totally wrong, but
yeah, I think English won 2 times last year. Connors won once in his whole career, for example, for $200 and less ownership. There's my example, right? Just one to just cut that right in half on you, Uncle T. But no, I mean, I'm serious though. Like I said, it just I love him. Corey Connors. I've been saying this for months. I know Hoop has said it plenty of times in the past. We've been looking at this guy and talking about him. Look, he's way better than people give him credit for. What I'm saying is my challenge is there's enough guys that I don't need the money. It's not like I need to save the bucks. I can go up and get more Webb, more Louis, more Cam Smith than English, and just leave him alone at 15 to 20% ownership and take that chance. Again, it could be me saying better luck next week and have to wait the 6 weeks with you. But
yeah, I mean, we can't agree on all these. I was just getting your all's thought. I was just, if you didn't like Connors just on his surface numbers or different things like that, I can understand it. I was just a little shocked that you guys thought he was overpriced. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
Yeah, but might be the bad way to put it. Like I said, more so against what, like you said, for the field strength, probably okay. For what's around him, I think there's other options that you can get away from it. Snyder, any other thoughts on this 9K range before we move to the 8K range there?
No, not really. I mean, I just need to dig in a little bit more on Kisner, Henley, and Gooch. I think Gooch is probably the safest guy in this range. I think Kisner probably has the most upside when you take into account like ownership and such, because I don't think he'll be. I think he'll probably come in at one of the lower owned guys in this range. I mean, Adam Scott might be there too as a lower owned guy, but I just don't like. I mean, I know you guys like Adam Scott, but I just don't like paying that type of price tag for him. It's just kind of personal with me of him there, I guess. But yeah, it's not too much more to add right
Well,
there.
what about Keegan Bradley at $100 cheaper? You can start with him and you can run it down to Chris Kirk. Our boy Kirky. I hope we all can agree on him. We'll get to him in a minute, but start us off, Snyder, in this 8K range.
Yeah, with Keegan, I mean, he's kind of popping in some of those ball striking stats I'm looking at over the last 24 rounds. I mean, he's always a guy to consider in GPPs for sure. He's got that high upside. It's usually boom or bust with him when you roster Keegan. His last two starts have been 70th and 7th, so you can kind of get the drift there. It's a lot of that when you're looking at his recent form and such. He did finish 15th here last year. I definitely don't mind him for tournaments and such. Joel Dommins made 3 of his last 4 cuts here. He's kind of popping in the ball striking stats as well over the last 24 rounds. 5 straight made cuts for him, coming off that strong T5 last week, and he came off that strong Sunday round of 65. I like him to carry over some of that good positive momentum he had in that strong round there. My guy Mito, he didn't hit the ball the best last week, but he still finished inside the top 30. I'll be looking to go back to him for sure this week. Should be a good course fit for him too, I think here. I think he could even finish in the top 10 this week as well. So I'm definitely going to be on my guy Mito. Seamus, he's coming off a rough start last week. He lost over 3 strokes putting and a miscut after 3 strong outings. I mean, I don't have any bad things about him. I'll be looking to jump back on him too. And our guy Chris Kirky, I mean, he's been really consistent making his last 7 cuts. We were on Kirky a lot at the start of the year, and we've been on him more towards the end of the year as well. Kind of struggled towards the mid part of the summer, but he's back in good form, it looks like. He had solid finishes here, 4th and 18th last year. I think he's a good play here. I mean, he's just gaining strokes across the board over his last 5 events. Looks just to be a solid option here in this range. So mainly I'm looking at Mito Pereira and Chris Kirky are my top 2 guys in this range.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you mentioned. And just before I flip it to you, Uncle T, one of the thoughts for me, and you can go off on it and then talk about the plays, but I just think in general, this is the second construction I like. So I talked about the first roster construction was multiple guys at the top and then just dipping way down, 2 or 3 6K guys. I got no problem with it. The second construction I actually like this week is just taking one of those guys, 10K and above, and then dipping down and taking a couple of these 8K guys, because I really do like this range. But you talk to me about it here first, and then I'll round it out.
Yeah, this is an interesting range for sure in the 8K range, because up top, I don't like nearly as much. I mean, I can see going to Keegan Bradley, but I'm probably not going to go there. He did finish 7th at the Zozo, and then, not as well after that. But like Justin Rose, Max Homa, I just feel like they're overpriced for sure. Mac Hughes is a guy that I thought for sure Tambo would be on. We'll get his take here in a minute. Consistent results. He's got no missed cuts since the Memorial in June. And for a guy that's, I get that in this field, 8,600 feels like it's pretty expensive for Mackenzie Hughes, but his consistency over that period of time means that he's been playing some pretty steady golf. So I don't think the ownership on him is going to be that great. I get that he's picking up a little bit of steam maybe the last couple of days, but I don't mind at all to go to Mackenzie Hughes. Joel Damon, I love the call there, Schneider, on Joel Damon. Like you mentioned, he closed with a 65 on Sunday to finish T5 in Houston, and he's been striking the ball pretty well the last 4 or 5 events. So I like the momentum, to stick with the momentum with Joel Damon here. I'm gonna pass on Brendan Todd and Mito Pereira. I've been on Mito a little bit with you, Schneider, but I'm gonna kind of hop off of him right now until I start to see a little bit more upside and maybe higher finishes. Seamus Power, similar to Taylor Gooch above, like we mentioned. I'm not going to hold one bad outing against him here. He had 3 straight top 21s, 2 straight top 12s before this. So he's had some good stretches, or he's had a good stretch of golf. Just had 1 bad week. So I don't mind as Snyder would call it, the flop lag here with Seamus Power. Johnny Vegas is an interesting one, right? he starts Sunday with the lead, a one-shot lead, and then he closed with a 75. I think he bogeyed 3 of the first 4 holes on Sunday, and it was all she wrote for Mr. Vegas. He wasn't able to recover, so don't think I'm going to go there this week. Chris Kirk, I'm on board. He started last week with a 64 last week, led the field, I think, after round 1, and then he kind of did fade on, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, finished T64. So not the best finish for him, for Kirky last week, but at 8K, don't mind going back to him.
Yeah, I really like Kirk down at the bottom. I'll start there just because we talked about him enough. I think if you don't like him, that's fine. For me, we've been on him plenty throughout the season. He's done well for us. I think, ever since he came back to golf after his little stint there that he had to take time away, he's played really good golf. It's consistent. The 8K price is fair, makes sense in this field, has the skill set, the ability. I can go back to Kirk, no problem here. Same with Seamus Power. I think, again, we said last week at 8,400 was a misprice. I don't think much changes here with him at 8,200. It was a bad last week, and we bounced back. I'm going back to him. I like Pereira. I like Bradley back up at the top. We mentioned it again. I'll always take a shot on him. I think him and Scott. Scott was right at 9K even. We already talked about it, but him and Bradley there could both go overlooked, and that's 2 guys you could fit into your lineup still, no problem. If you go down, if you don't mind going down into that 6K range. Joel Damon was the guy I was thinking about. Same with Hughes. I'm not as high on them as I was to originally start. Again, I think Joel Damon's picking up a lot of steam. I did bet him at 66-1. I feel pretty good about that. But once he picks up this and you've got Hughes, Bradley, Todd, Pereira, Power, Kirk, all these names, it makes it a little bit tougher. Like I said, I don't ever just fade just for the ownership. I like what you guys said about Damon. I might have a little bit, but I'm just saying he's come down the board with some of these names around him that I'll be getting more overweight on. It'll be hard. I'm not going to take a stand on Joel Damon and get heavy on him this week when everyone else is. So I'll move off of him some. Like I said, though, I do like the construction of using a guy up top, pick your guy, whether it's Webb, Louis, Cam Smith, whoever, and then drop down, take a couple of these guys, and then you skip over some ranges that way, right? You got no 9K, maybe no 7K, or at least no upper 7K from 7,500 to 7,900. So I think it's a good way to go about it. But let's talk about that very range. We've got the 7,500 all the way up to 7,900. Uncle T, going to kick it right back to you here. Basically, Robert Streb, Adam Long, Merritt, and List, all the way up to Matt Kuchar.
Yeah, got interest in a few of these guys up at the top end of the 7K range. Starting up the top, I think Brian Harman. It's an interesting situation, I think, with Brian Harman, because if you look at the numbers recently, you would think, how would you be on him, right? Because he hasn't been in the best form, but he's got decent course history here, and he's popping in some of these models. So I think if I'm kind of going by that, which I'm more of a history guy and current form guy, so I'm going a little bit off of that thought process with this pick, but I kind of like Brian Harman a little bit this week at 7,800. Danny Lee is interesting because, he's been pretty good the last 2 weeks, obviously, a 7th and a 2nd. The last 2 events, can we ride one more week with Danny Lee? I don't know. He's the one that I really have a question mark on, because I really don't mind riding a hot hand. I believe, Tambo, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, he was in the optimal the last 2 weeks. However, he's not been priced at 7,700. So I don't think he'll make the optimal this week unless he maybe finishes top 5. Who knows? But I do have some interest there, possibly going down a little bit. I like Troy Merritt and Luke List. Like both of those guys, both coming off, Merritt coming off T15 at the Mayaková. Not much upside as far as maybe, really getting into the mix on Sunday. But again, at 7,600 or 7,500 in his case, I don't mind it. Luke List is, again, he had a T11, a T7, T17, 3 of his last 5 events. And he's a boom bust guy. We know he can't putt. He's a horrible putter. But if he just somehow putts to a 0 one week and has the ball striking and get, tee to green, I think he could be in the mix here on Sunday as well at 7,500. So for me, I won't go into, you said 75. Adam Long, 7,500 even. Similar to Danny Lee. I think I want to try to ride the hot hand here with Adam Long. He's not very long, no pun intended, off the tee, but he's got 3 straight top 25s. And again, I think I'm going to kind of ride these guys instead of maybe thinking you can get off of them. This range, I think, brings several guys into play as far as value. And I think Adam Long is in that category. So for me, I'll grab Long, List, Merritt, Lee, and then Harman. 5 guys I'll mention in that upper 7K range.
Yeah, speaking of Adam Long puns, it's not a long list here if you just play Adam Long and Luke List, but The other side of it is his Twitter handle is actually a long shot. So I personally love that one. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. Obviously a winner on tour. He did it down the stretch. Phil Mickelson, Hadwin were there, and he putted out right in front of them. Kind of like how when Keith Mitchell won the Honda, he had to make that big putt in front of Ricky Fowler and Brooks Koepka standing greenside. That's how Long got it done, and in the desert. So I don't hate that call at all. Snyder, what do you like that down here in this range? 7,500 up to 7,900.
Yeah, there's a few guys I'm looking at in this range. I kind of like Matt Kuchar this week. I don't know if he's going to see much ownership or not. He enters in with some decent form here, finished 36th or better in 4 of his last 5 events. He's made the cut here 5 of 7 times, usually finishing right around that 30th spot. I think this is one of those events that he can still compete and contend at this point in his career, so I'll be looking to go to him most likely. Brian Harman, I'm kind of on the fence on him. I think if he could garner some ownership here, I think that could be a fade for me. He's kind of in a bad funk at the moment, and I've been wanting and waiting for him to kind of pop out of this funk, as he was one of the most consistent guys we rostered, in the years past and early in this year. But something's got him down here, and I just don't know if I'm going to get there this week or not. Rogers, he looks to be in really good tournament option here. He's been up and down recently. He's kind of like a boom bust, kind of like Keegan Bradley type guy. He's went miscut 4th, miscut 6th, and miscut in his event history here. And this event history is pretty much the same here. He's got a 2nd and a 10th to go along with 3 miscuts. I mean, that's the GBP guy I'm going to be looking at in this range that could pop, or you're going to be dead. But either way, I like the upside with him there. Luke List, still need to look into Luke List some this week. I mean, I think he's going to be one of the most popular plays down in this range. And he's just like Rogers. He's that boom bust guy. He's won 11th, miscut, 7th, miscut in his last 4 events. He has some pretty solid event history here, but I think I might just be underweight or completely fade him if he's going to see some ownership. I usually don't look at ownership too much, but in a spot like this, I feel like with him being such a top-heavy guy, boom-bust guy, it's either all in or fade or something like that. I think I might just get on the opposite side of that this week. Troy Merritt enters in with some pretty solid form as well. He's made 3 of his last 4 cuts, 3 finishes inside the top 30th, and he came off that 15th place finish in his last event. He's made 3 of his last 4 cuts here. He's usually finishing right around that mid-pack in those 2. So Troy Merritt's a guy I'm going to have consideration in this upper 7K range, but nothing like with strong conviction for me in this range. And my favorite guy in this upper tier would probably be Matt Kuchar.
Yeah, that's one of those situational things, like you mentioned with Harman, Kuchar, kind of the way you bring those guys up. And so you're either going with, form, or what they've done lately, or what they could do for this course, as far as not lately, so what they've done at this course before, or what their course fit is like. And I kind of like how you did that there. I'm not as high on Kuchar, but some of the other guys, I think it's one of those things. NYG fan brought it up and said these ownerships are kind of wild. And I have to agree. I feel like the entire swing season's been that way, though. People are having a really tough time. I mentioned this on last week's show. People are really struggling. Yeah, I'm talking about providers and people that put it out there. And it's not against them. It's just saying in general, and I understand why, of getting these ownership projections dialed in. So that's why I really don't want to make too much of it based off of that. But I get where you're coming from, Snyder, especially with Luke List. If Corey Connors chalk week is bad, there's only one thing worse, and it's Luke List chalk week. And it does feel like it's trending that way. I can tell you why, because when I woke up on Monday morning and bet him, it was 110-1. I just thought that number was off by about 20 or 30 points. And then sure enough, it's down to like 70 or 80 in most places. So people are definitely interested in Luke List this week. And I think it's on the opposite side of that, an opposite note there. Uncle T mentioned it, but like you've got other guys, right? You've got Merritt, who's played some pretty good golf, been consistent. You've got Rogers, Danny Lee, and these guys have been playing great golf. They've been in form. It's just people don't like to play them, or they wouldn't want to go back to them, because we're still talking about Danny Lee at a higher price point, or we're talking about Rogers, who can never keep the consistency, or whatever it might be. So that's where I'm saying the ownership doesn't really necessarily matter on guys like them, because they're not going to be owned enough probably for what you'd have to worry about to get off them and just say, I'm going to play somebody else. The other guy that stood out for me here was Kevin Streelman. Again, it kind of like your Kuchar thought, Snyder. He's just my version of Kuchar, where I just like to play a guy like Streelman. He can rattle them off. He can start making birdies. We've seen him at other courses. I wouldn't say similar like at Pebble Beach, but just at like the AT&T has a great year every year out there. And it reminds me, there's wind. There's you got to make putts. Birdie Fest can come into play. All those factors different courses, everything that really lines up with this place. So I like Streelman as well at 7,600. Uncle T, back to you. We'll go through the rest of the 7K range. We got a lot of guys at 7,400, Grace, Grillo, Schwab, and Aaron Rye, all the way down to the 7K range, which has like 6 or 7 guys as well. Take us there.
Yeah, definitely more guys in this range in the lower 7K range, but starting up near the top, I think I had a little bit of interest in Brandon Grace, but I had a question mark next to him about his health. Is there something going on where he might withdraw, Tambo? Do you know or not?
Yeah, actually, Kenny brought it up yesterday on our podcast, and he said I think it's a chest issue that he's having. I haven't heard much more on it, but I definitely think it is a reason to, just get off him or not go there this week. He makes sense from a grinder perspective and what type of game that he plays, but I would definitely be cautious of it. If we find more, we'll post into the Discord for everybody too. Yeah,
I wanted to start with him because I had him last week and he obviously disappointed me. And I think you were on him too last week, Tambo. I'm not sure. And I was going to maybe come right back with him. And then I heard that news and I think I might just go ahead and stay off. So I'll start with 7,400 Aaron Rye. It's a guy that Schneider's liked quite a bit. I haven't necessarily been on board with him hardly at all the last couple months, but he's coming off back-to-back top 20s. And again, I think in this range, boy, that's pretty good consistency, I think. And you got some good value there in Aaron Rye. So I kind of like him quite a bit. One guy it's kind of uncomfortable to click his name maybe, but because I don't know as much about him, but Hayden Buckley, he's 7,300. Obviously he's coming off the Corn Ferry, but he's got 3 top 10s in his last 5 events. Now the one event was the Corn Ferry Tour Championship. So if you wanted to throw that out, he still has 2 top 10s in his last 4 events that he's been on, in the PGA. So I don't necessarily mind him. He will carry probably about 5% ownership. Nothing to worry about there. Going down the board a little bit, Brian Stewart and Tyler Duncan are a couple guys that I've played the last few weeks. I played them in Showdown as well. Not sure what to do with these two because I've played them quite a bit. I don't know if they're going to be kind of popular down here, but I definitely have interest in both of them. Maybe one of you two guys can kind of get me on board with one of them. Then I'd skip a few guys down to Alex Smalley. Again, don't know much about these guys other than what we see, the stats and stuff that we're looking at and the projections, but he rates out pretty well here as far as, again, another value play all the way down at 7,100, 4 or 5 cuts during the fall swing. Feels like he's getting more and more comfortable playing in these events. So don't mind him. Taylor Moore's a guy that we played the last couple of weeks. He let us down a little bit last week. So maybe don't mind going back there. And then I'll mention 2 other guys down towards the bottom, Lucas Glover and Denny McCarthy. Lucas Glover is a guy that's, again, generally an uncomfortable play for the most part, but, he's got pretty good history here. His form hasn't been the greatest, but I think I might side more with the course form or course history here than the current form with Glover. And then Denny McCarthy, he's a guy, again, we don't have to worry about the putter. I mean, he's pretty daggone good putter coming off at T11th in Houston. He finished T8 here back in 2019. So definitely have some interest in Glover and McCarthy down near the bottom of this range.
Yeah, Snyder, the thing for me in this range, before I kick it over to you, is just about what is the difference between an Aaron Rye and a Hayden Buckley than some of the guys when we get to Chad Ramey at 6,900 or Taylor Moore at 7,100, the Smallies. Again, you can just keep leveling down. And I think the thing that just keeps standing out for me, and I'll say it again, for those just joining or checking in late, we appreciate you guys hitting the like button, subscribing as we go along. But I just think in general, looking at it, the 10K range is way better than the 9K range. And the 8K range is way better than the 7K range. And the 6K range is the same or better than the 7K range. It's a lot to take in all in one sentence, but just to bring it up again, it just stands out to me huge this week. And I think that's going to make a big difference in our roster construction. So what are you doing down here in this lower 7K range? What are your thoughts on everything I just went through there?
Yeah, I completely agree with that comparison you just made. I think that's a great comparison there. Honestly, I mean, I completely agree. Aaron Rye is a guy that I've kind of liked from the Euro Tour. I've been on him some here recently. He's off back-to-back top 20 finishes, like Uncle T had said. He's gained over 5 strokes in both of those events. The thing that's kind of been holding him back has been that putter as well. If he can just get that rolling, I mean, I think he could pop to like T15 or something here. If he can just break even putting or slightly gain, I think so. Keith Mitchell, he's kind of a guy I like to target for GPPs. He's kind of got that high ceiling. He loves the Bermuda grass. He's kind of, he's been good off the tee, and he's hit or miss with the flat stick, but he loves Bermuda grass and such, so I definitely have some consideration to him in some GPPs. Doug Gim, he's another good cut maker. He's made 5 of his last 6 cuts, coming off a 27th place at the Mayakoba, 65th and 18th in his 2 appearances here. I think he makes for an interesting guy to add to your player pool. Taylor Moore, he's my guy off the Corn Ferry Tour. Like I've said, he's my flag playing off the Corn Ferry this year. Kind of burned me last week. He lost over 2 strokes putting, but I have no problem going right back to him here. I mean, he's going to have virtually no ownership here this week. He's shown that upside with a couple top 25s this here over the last couple of months. So definitely don't take much to get overweight on him, and I'll be going back to him for sure. Kyle Stanley's kind of popping in these ball striking stats, but the short game is just brutal. I mean, when you're ranking 146th in this field in putting, you know you're pretty dusty with the flat stick. So I probably will be off of him this event as well. Denny McCarthy's another guy you could look at. Ches Reeves, a name down there, but Adam Shanks, another name down there. Brendan Steele, Lucas Glover. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get to any of those guys, but they're more of the well-known guys that maybe people will click on and such.
Yeah, should note today Adam Shank did withdraw, so he's out now.
Nice.
And then, people, in the chats, Abrasive talking about Keith Mitchell. He did. I had a couple, I think it was a 67, 69, and then it was 273s over the weekend for him. So it's just tough with those guys. That's what I was trying to say. That's what I don't see a big enough difference here than when we get down to the 6K range. And I have a bunch more names on my radar. And the thought process is just that. It's that some of these guys are good names. They can pop enough, but will they pop often enough and hold for enough rounds? And everyone just, as long as they make the cut. Not true at this event. I don't think that's not true. We want 6 out of 6. I agree, but there's gonna, if my 6K guy makes the cut with your 7K guy and then destroys them over the weekend, then it's not the same. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, why I'm good on it this week. The only guys I really like down here, and you mentioned most of them, Snyder, but Doug Gim, I think is worth taking. Again, what's Doug Gim versus all the other names we just said above, the Hayden Buckleys, the Aaron Rise? They're not bad golfers. They're good names. They've got the ability. They've got the talent. That's why they're here. That's why they're on the PGA Tour. But I'm saying in general, I'll go with a guy like Doug Gim that we've played in the past. Smalley Moore. I think the lower 7K range is more interesting. And then Adam Hadwin was the guy that I said earlier, the other Canadian I've got interest in at 7,200. Again, not really much going on, but just at 7,200, the ability to pop, the upside, the putter, everything goes with him at 7,200. I can take some shots on him down here, but that's really it. Those 3 or 4 names. And then we want to hop into this 6K range. There's a lot of guys that we can talk about. Uncle T, I'm going to start with you. You can do the whole range if you want to roll through it. Just pick 3 or 4 guys. If you got more than that, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, Tambo, if I can take a step back. You mentioned Adam Hadwin. I didn't necessarily have him on my radar, but that's actually might be a nice call there. I really like that. 7,200 feels pretty cheap for Adam Hadwin here. So not sure, I'm not sure why I didn't have him on my initial list, but I really like to add him there.
He hits fairways and can get hot with the putter.
Yeah, he can definitely get hot with the putter. The other thing, if you go back to that same conversation we had around Kisner and Scott and Webb and all them over at Wyndham, he just got 10th there. And then if you look at the stats across the board, they're pretty solid. One of the best putters, hits all the fairways, like Snyder said, everything you've got going on there. And people just don't play him enough or think of him as an upside option. I think that the key to him is it's kind of the opposite of what we just said with Keith Mitchell. Keith Mitchell definitely has a higher ceiling, it seems, at times. He can just go off and be there in the mix, but it's not as often. And also, Hadwin could have what is enough that's needed to be able to make the weekend, and you don't have to always worry about a 73 over the weekend. He can still pop up a 68, 67, finish top 10 and get the job done for you. And at the Wyndham, much tougher field over there at Sedgefield, definitely. So I think this is similar as far as course fit goes, but definitely a lighter field. So at 7,200, he'll definitely make my GPP pools this week. Yeah,
I like it. I can love that, actually. So, get him in here. But no, talking about the 7K range, you're right. And I'm going to, without letting you guys get in here, I don't want to mention a bunch of names, but the few I will mention, Chad Ramey is probably my favorite guy underneath 7K here this week, 6,900. Again, I know I keep using the same analogy, but it feels like when I first looked at a few of these guys, they should be priced up $300, $400, $500 more. And I think Chad Ramey should be in that category. So for me, I like him quite a bit here. Matt Jones, I have some interest in, another Aussie. Harry Higgs is a guy that pops from time to time. We all like Harry Higgs at times. He just generally can't put 4 rounds together. Going down a little bit on the board, another guy I like quite a bit is Andrew Landry. And again, these guys down here, we like them. There's some name guys down here. We're going to make some points on why we like them. But again, they are under 7K for a reason. They're obviously towards the, the bottom end of this field as far as what people think, right? So, but Andrew Landry's got a couple top 10s sandwiched in between two poor outings, the last 4. But he does have a couple T4 finishes here. So it's kind of a mixed bag for Andrew Landry. But again, at 6,800, I'm willing to put him in my player pool down here. I know somebody in the chat earlier when we started the show asked if it was JJ Spawn week. I don't know if it's JJ Spawn week, but I do think he's viable this week down here. Again, in this range, he's been playing some really good golf. Had a T7 a few weeks ago. Don't mind him. Tambo, what happened to our boy Taylor Pendrith? Wow. You and I were on him a little bit, lockstep, and boy, the last two events, he's really fallen on some hard times. So I think I'm going to hop off Taylor Pendrith until I can see a little bit better form going back the other way. Hank Lebioda, I don't mind him down here. Schneider and I's boy Grayson Sig, he ranks out really well for me. I've got him 80-1 on DK Sportsbook right now, and he is at 6,600. So don't necessarily know that I'll bet him at 80-1 because I think there's not a whole lot of value there. But from a DFS perspective, I really like him. And I'll mention 2 other guys. Hudson Swafford, I think, is an interesting guy down here at 6,600. And then just off of the course history, not necessarily current form, but Vaughn Taylor at 6,500. I got some interest there.
Yeah, I was just checking. I know some watching the show always like the NBA news. I'm way behind on it, but luckily we still have time. Terrence Mann and Justice Winslow both out. So I was keeping track of that for my lineups after this. Obviously over at RPS, we've got all sports going on. So we're getting in the NBA Discord after this, get some chat going on there, see what makes sense. If you guys haven't signed up yet, you can go over to Run Pure Sports, use promo code RPS Heater 25, get yourself set up. It's all sports, one price. Get in the Discord. That gets you 25% off your first month. We appreciate you guys sticking with us here as we get through. I really do like this range. Snyder, I'll let you take it away first, and then I'll round it out. But I will say one point before I kick it to you here is just, I say this all the time, and I couldn't be more on it this week. My pool will be way tighter than ever this week down here. That meaning once I get, or overall, I should say, but down here, once I get down here, I want enough of these guys to be able to play them. Like everyone, there's all these names: Pendrith, Riley, Swafford, Hickok, Lebioda. We can name the whole list. But if you're only going to play 2 lineups of each of them in your 50 or 100 plus lineups, if you are playing MME like myself, then it's not going to do much for you. You're going to hope to hit the diamond in the rough lineup. You're not just the pick, but then that lineup to have all the rest of the guys that go with it. And I think for me, it's going to be too tough. So I've only got 7 or 8, but I'm going to have, again, way tighter in the 7K range, like I talked about, and everything across my entire pool to make sure I can get plenty of the guys that I'm choosing down here. Go ahead, Snyder.
Yeah, I like that, the way you put that there for sure. Chad Ramey's going to be my top value target here in this range. Like Uncle T said, he's just great. I mean, he did miss cut last week, but I'm fine jumping right back on him this week. He did finish top 20 in his previous 2 events. Strong ball striker, does tend to struggle a little bit with the flat stick from time to time, but he's like another guy. I was talking, I ran some lineups on SaberSim, and he was definitely the top value option it was given me. So I like that as well. Wyndham Clark, our guy, Mr. Ham here. He's made 3 straight cuts. Made his last 2 cuts here too. I think I could play him this week. He'll make the player pool for sure. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with Taylor Pendrith yet. Like, I was on him with you guys, over the past month or so. He's coming off back-to-back missed cuts, so kind of proceed with caution here, but I still like his upside for GPPs as we've seen what he's done in the past. Grayson Sig, I kind of feel like he's a steal here at 6'6". He's coming off that missed cut last week, but he did have 3 straight solid outings before that. Lost strokes putting last week, but I definitely like going back to him here at such a good value price tag, I feel. Kevin Tway, he's the last guy I'm going to talk about in this range. Another guy I've been on quite a bit this year. I mean, he was good off the tee last week. The putter's on fire as well. He finished second at the Houston Open. Good momentum coming here into the RSM here. I always feel like Kevin Tway just goes overlooked, and he's always underpriced, I feel, and he exceeds expectations quite a bit this year. So I'm definitely going to have him in the player pool. So just mainly those guys. My top guy is definitely going to be Chad Ramey in this range, and then followed by Grayson Sig probably.
Yeah, I like both of those guys quite a bit. And whatever, whoever gets on them can. Like I said, I don't think it'll be near enough of what you would expect or what they could or should be at in this tournament. So like I said, there's absolutely, to me, no difference between those two guys and the ones that we talked that were mentioned above or in consideration. So I'm just happy to drop down here. Really like Matthew Neesmith as well. You want to talk about a guy that just hits fairways and greens. I remember back, I think it was like the Boise State Open. We were all chasing Hovland over on, I think it was Webb at the time, web.com tour. And it was Neesmith shutting him down the stretch and taking the W. Basically, Hovland need to hole out from the fairway to get the playoff. And he put it to like a foot still. Like Hovland's just so good. But yeah, it was Neesmith, and all he was doing, like he always does, fairways, greens, fairways, greens. He's an assassin when it comes to that. And he's just got to make some putts. But at 6,800, it's more than priced in. So I like him. I like Taylor Pendrith. You guys mentioned it. I know you might be hopping off, but he was the other Canadian I mentioned earlier. If imagine the week everyone's on Mackenzie Hughes and Taylor Pendrith comes out and gets a W and spoils the party. That to me would just be incredible. I like his game. We've talked about it plenty. The roommate situation with Corey Connors and his wife living in there with him for a while and that sort of stuff. So I just think it can all line up. And then two more for me. Hank Lebioda, who you mentioned, Uncle T. I'm definitely going to play him. Just talent and upside for price. Don't care what happens. Like I said, I'm going to have more than enough of these guys that if they do get through, it's going to be enough to at least be checking more than one or two lineups to find out where I stand based on how they're doing on the week. And then Vincent Whaley, another guy I always have a little bit of affinity for. I think if you go back, just makes so many cuts, can score on the par five. So the one round he does get there at the Plantation, assuming weather is in his favor, I think he can work. And then the last guy, here's my shot of the week that I'm taking, Ryan Baroff. Most follow on Twitter. If you don't, go check him out, rbaroff247. He basically was on the podcast with me last week, filling in for Kenny Kim. And he said this week, when I talked to him, he was following up about some of the picks. We hit the Coke Rack winner last week, 50-1. He said, Andrew Novak is a guy you want, hitting lots of fairways. I think it was 22nd at the Mayakoba just recently. Again, just riding some form. But when he gets hot, he can get hot. And at 6,300, I think he's a nice little sleeper down here at the bottom. Like I said, you don't want to play too many, but I have no problem playing as much as I mentioned, because for me, I'm going to be heavier on them, that lower 7K range, skip a bunch of the upper 7K, and then mix in some of the other guys around there. Swafford was another guy definitely could consider there. I see it in the chat again. I think Swafford is definitely in consideration. He's been playing some pretty good golf. If he makes it in, then I can always alleviate myself with somebody else at the lower 7K range and fill in another 6K so I can get even more of them. But a much tighter pool for me this week and minimum 10% ownership on everybody that I've got. Snyder, anything else you want to talk about here for this week before we get on to our winners?
No, not really. I mean, it'll just be another week for where I'll be playing lesser volume than I normally would in like a full season event. Probably just going to run MME this week. I'm not sure how many lineups or such, but I'm going to run enough to get enough of these guys that I want in there. Should be a fun event here. I like the 2-course swing here. I think we should see some advantages, whether it's weather-wise or whatnot. So make sure to pay attention to the Discord. We'll have all the news and updates and everything in there that you need to profit this week.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Uncle T, anything else that you want to add for this week?
Yeah, not a whole lot. I think, and it'll segue kind of into our winners because I wanted to talk about it. But, this tournament over the last several years, obviously due to the strength of the field, you don't have the top guns in this event usually. But usually you see some different, lesser known guys or lesser, talented guys win this. And if I can, Tambo, do you want me just to go into my winner? Yeah. So I'll start off with my long shot. And, this tournament, we've seen guys like, again, Mackenzie Hughes, Charles Howell III, Robert Streb twice, Austin Cook, right? I think he won it one year. So in line with that, I've got my long shot this week. And again, it's a dart throw. It's a long shot. I'm going with Andrew Landry, 130-1. He's got some good course history and he's been playing some good golf. So my dart throw and my long shot this week is Andrew Landry. When you go back up to the top, I've been between two guys the whole show and I just can't make the call, but I am going to make one for the show. I'm going with Cam Smith, 14-1 on DK Sportsbook. I think Cam has been playing some really good golf. And I think in this field, I think he could be one of those guys that breaks through. He doesn't have the mold of, again, one of those guys I just mentioned, off the radar a little bit. But I think Cam Smith is going to be my up top guy pick to win this week.
I'm glad you picked more of a favorite for that up at the top, because I have one the same way. we'll get to it in a second. Snyder, I'll let you go first. Give us your winner, just your best, best number, top winner for the week, and then go to your long shot after that.
I'm gonna roll with a mid-range guy for my best win. I think he's got good win equity here. Kevin Kisner. I don't think many people are gonna be on him, but I think he's got the winning upside that's needed here for this event. Has good course history. My long shot punt play is going to be Keith Mitchell, 130 to 1. We've seen that upside. I mean, if he can get hot for 4 straight rounds, I mean, there's no question he could win here if everything aligns. The Bermuda grass, which he prefers and such. Killer Keith could find the winning circle this week.
Yeah, I've got I'll do my long shot first just because I was just looking at it. I want to see what the number changed to. I got Luke List. Like I said, I was happy with the 110. He's down to 80 at my book, but I'm going to give a bonus long shot. It's certainly not to win because I don't think he'll win, but one guy I didn't mention in the bottom range down there that I actually do like this week. Good on Bermuda. We've been waiting for him to pop, and that's AP's boy, Chesson Hadley. I'll give you the top 20 on him. He's 10 to 1 for a top 20 this week. I think that's the way, or play a bunch of them in DFS. That's the other way to go if you want to do it that way. But I think at 10 to 1, I think he's a pretty good top 20 bet this week for him. And then my winner, like I said, Uncle T, I'm going to one up you even and go with someone with even worse odds, but it's just who I think is winning the tournament. So it is what it is. Webb Simpson. I think he gets the job done this week. I mentioned it earlier. He's popping for a reason. If he fails, then so be it. But I'm going to play a lot of them. I put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to definitely play a lot of Webb Simpson. And I just, at 16 to 1, he's hard to bet. Like, it's not that I don't get excited about 16 to 1. It's just I don't feel like I'm missing out. I'd much rather just pile all that money into losing long shots than I would to get hyped about a Webb Simpson 16 to 1 win. But I'll definitely be playing a lot of them on the week as far as DFS is concerned. So for everybody out there, we appreciate you guys. You guys have stuck with us all through the season. This season at RPS is going to be even better. We're going to have plenty more shows. We're going to be back to the Tuesday show and the Wednesday show. The Wednesday show will be back to premium. As far as I know, at least it should be for RPS members. So you guys are going to want to get signed up before then. We're going to have a lot of content when it comes to Showdown. Majors, you're not going to want to be without us as far as the big tournaments on the go and the types of content that we're going to have for that. So I know it's a little bit of a break here, but we do appreciate you guys sticking with us every single week for this show. For Uncle T, for Snyder, for Simon behind the scenes, I'm Toe Tag and Tambo. Simon, get us out of here, man.